It's hard to believe it's almost 2020 and even harder to think back on all the wrestlers we've lost over the last 10 years. Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at the most notable names who passed away in the previous decade. Some of these names may be unfamiliar to you, but we'll explain why they belong on our list of the absolute greatest. Number 1. The Ultimate Warrior. Despite a relatively short career, the Ultimate Warrior achieved lightning-fast fame and became entrenched in wrestling lore as one of wrestling's most unique and charismatic stars. Number 2. Vader. Arguably the best big man from the 1990s, Vader's size coupled with an incredible mix of brawling and seemingly impossible moves such as a moonsault made Leon White a hit in Japan and WCW. A shoulder injury and backstage politics hindered his WWF career, but Vader's amazing contributions to the industry are undeniable. Number 3. Macho Man Randy Savage. Whether he worked in territories or the big time in the WWF and WCW, Randy Macho Man Savage, aka Randy Poffo, found enduring success wherever he wrestled. Whether it was his recognizable baritone voice or his jaw-dropping ring style, which was a hybrid of high-flying moves and intense brawling, it kept fans on the edge of their seats. His one-of-a-kind promos and Beauty and the Beast pairing with manager Miss Elizabeth are still fondly remembered by the fans. Number 4. Verne Gagne. Gagne went from success in amateur wrestling and professional football to superstardom in professional wrestling, both as a wrestler and as the owner and promoter of the American Wrestling Association. The AWA was a successful promotion for decades until, like many wrestling leagues, it fell to the WWF. Number 5. Rowdy Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper worked the territories before achieving breakout success in Jim Crockett Promotions, joining the WWF and becoming a key player in the success of WrestleMania and the WWF's subsequent expansion. Piper's foray into Hollywood put his wrestling career on the back burner at times, but he still played a vital role in the WWF and WCW during the 90s and even the 2000s. Number 6. Sir Oliver Humperdink. The territory era featured a number of managers, but one who distinguished himself was Sir Oliver Humperdink, aka John J. Sutton, whose sinister look and gravelly voice made him a natural heel. Humperdink was a top heel manager long before he appeared in the WWF and WCW. Number 7. Skandor Akbar. Another memorable manager, Jimmy Saeed Weber, transitioned from wrestler to manager, becoming a much-hated heel manager in Mid-South Wrestling, where he led the faction Devastation Inc. Number 8. Pedro Morales. While long associated with the WWWF and WWF, Pedro Morales found success in a number of other promotions, including the AWA, various NWA territories, and the Worldwide Wrestling Association. Naturally, Morales' greatest achievement was becoming the WWF's first Triple Crown winner, winning the Heavyweight Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, and the Tag Team Championship. Number 9. Paul Jones. Paul Frederick found success as both a heel and a babyface, working a number of territories before campaigning extensively in championship wrestling from Florida, and particularly in Jim Crockett Promotions, where he won a slew of singles and tag team belts. Jones later managed wrestlers in Jim Crockett Promotions during the mid-80s, assembling the Paul Jones Army. Number 10. Paul Bearer. While William Moody is best known for his managerial character as Paul Bearer, he had a successful career before entering the WWF, managing heels in championship wrestling from Florida and world-class championship wrestling as Percy Pringle. Number 11. Nick Bockwinkel. Every babyface needs a strong opponent, and second-generation star Nick Bockwinkel provided credible opposition for anyone he faced in the AWA, incorporating technical wrestling with heel tactics to make himself a thorn in the side of many an AWA grappler. Bockwinkel formed a championship tag team with Ray Stevens before winning the AWA World Heavyweight Championship 4 times. Number 12. Ox Baker. Douglas Baker Sr.'s imposing height and satanic visage, mixed with his finisher, the Heart Punch, made Baker one of the most feared heels in the territory era. Due to 2 freak accidents, Baker's Heart Punch was credited with the deaths of 2 wrestlers, inadvertently putting him over even further. Baker was a natural for the silver screen, and his best remembered Hollywood role is John Carpenter's Escape from New York. Number 13. Mr. Fuji. Contemporary fans may remember Mr. Fuji, aka Harry Fujiwara, for his long run as manager, famously managing Demolition for example, but Mr. Fuji had an enduring run as a diabolical Japanese heel, winning a number of tag team titles in the WWWF and the WWF before guiding wrestlers as their manager. Number 14. Nikolai Volkoff. The big and burly man escaped from Yugoslavia to the United States, finding fame and fortune as the villainous Soviet Nikolai Volkoff. Volkoff worked in several promotions such as the AWA, Mid-South Wrestling and Japan, but he's best known for his many runs in the WWF, including his tag team championship team with the Iron Sheik and his later team with Boris Zukov as the Bolsheviks. Number 15. Gene Okerlund. Stickman Mean Gene Okerlund was so good at his job that he found lasting success in 3 of wrestling's biggest promotions, beginning with the AWA, followed by the WWF, and finally WCW. While Mean Gene provided commentary, his best role was interviewing wrestlers and helping them tell their stories before and after matches. Number 16. Masa Saito. Former Olympic wrestler Masanori Saito competed in Japan and North America, working as the much-hated Mr. Saito. Saito worked in the NWA, the AWA and the WWF, where he teamed with Mr. Fuji, winning the WWF Tag Team Championship twice. Runs in All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling saw Saito include some of wrestling's biggest names. He's also known for the incident where he and fellow wrestler Ken Patera were sentenced to 2 years in prison after assaulting several police officers following a disturbance at a McDonald's. Number 17. Mad Dog Vachon. Joseph Vachon knew the value of image in wrestling, shaving his head and growing a beard to enhance his villainous appearance, as well as viciously beating down opponents in the ring. He even purchased television time to get himself over, which culminated in a long run in the AWA, including 5 runs as AWA World Heavyweight Champion. Number 18. Mae Young. While Mae Young enjoyed success during the 50s, 60s and 70s, her biggest accomplishments occurred much later in her career when she became a comedic character during the Attitude Era. Whether it was her hijinks along with her partner in crime the fabulous Moolah, or her risque romance with the much younger sexual chocolate Mark Henry, Young provided many laughs for the WWF fans and was honored with the 2008 Hall of Fame induction, as well as the Mae Young Classic Tournament, which features female wrestlers from NXT and the independent scene. Number 19. Lance Russell. Despite spending the majority of his broadcast career in Memphis wrestling, he did hit the national scene for a few years in WCW and later on Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Wherever he worked, Russell's announcing forwarded the stories in the ring and made the sometimes ridiculous Memphis angles make sense. Russell never made himself part of the show, instead focusing his energies on helping marble-mouth wrestlers cut an effective angle and help silver-tongued stars like Jerry the King Lawler look even better. Number 20. King Kong Bundy. Wrestling's walking condominium was the perfect monster heel for Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 2, and his tag team with Big John Studd made for an instant David vs. Goliath battle for anyone facing him and Studd. Although the WWF was the pinnacle of his career, Bundy's earlier runs in the territories such as Memphis and World Class Championship Wrestling showed he was no one-trick pony, or behemoth in his case. Number 21. Jimmy Snuka. The Superfly was the type of heel who was too amazing for fans to boo for long, as evident by his program against WWF champion Bob Backlund, where Vince McMahon Sr. toyed with making Snuka WWF champion. Despite his personal demons repeatedly hurting his career, Snuka managed to find himself in some of the biggest angles of the mid-80s, including his feud with the Magnificent Morocco and his definitive feud with Roddy Piper. Number 22. Ivan Koloff. The Russian bear was so fierce that when it came time to take the WWWF Championship off Bruno Sammartino, only Ivan Koloff seemed capable of doing the job. Koloff's title reign was merely transitional, but he forever became known as the man who defeated the unbeatable Sammartino. Of course, that's only part of his legend, and the crafty heel terrorized opponents as a solo competitor and in tag action, including his memorable team with storyline nephew Nikita Koloff in Jim Crockett Promotions. Number 23. Jack Brisco. In addition to his reign as NWA World Champion, Jack Brisco was the epitome of the babyface, but was also quite adept as a heel. Brisco and brother Jerry found tag team success in a variety of territories before Jack retired in the mid-80s. Number 24. Harley Race. Harley Race served as an NWA World Heavyweight Champion when promoters needed a champion who could legitimately defend himself in the ring should a rival promoter send an opponent after him to steal the title. While Race's toughness and shooting abilities are well known, his wrestling promos and in-ring work were matched by few. The NWA repeatedly showed their confidence in Race by putting their title on him 7 or 8 times, depending on whom you believe, and the WWF gladly welcomed him to the company, even when Race's best years were behind him. Number 25, Hayabusa. Iji Ezaki, sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, wrestled for several years with limited success until he created the character Hayabusa during a run in Mexico. Hayabusa became Japan's frontier martial arts wrestling's top star from the mid-90s until a botched moonsault paralyzed him, forcing his retirement. Hayabusa is considered one of wrestling's greatest high flyers and is credited with innovating the Falcon Splash and popularizing the Firebird Splash, aka the 450. Number 26, George the Animal Steele. One of the WWWF's most bizarre characters, William Myers terrorized fans as George the Animal Steele, always providing lots of mayhem when he battled the babyface roster in between eating turnbuckles. His crazy character proved the perfect fit for the rock and wrestling character, and the WWF turned him babyface, adding him to the promotion's growing carnival of cut-ups. Number 27, Dusty Rhodes. Despite one of the most unathletic physiques in wrestling, Dusty Rhodes was a phenomenal worker and easily capable of 60-minute Broadways 7 nights a week. One of wrestling's most charismatic and gifted talkers, Rhodes knew how to connect with the fans, and while he had success as a heel, his babyface act was his true calling, as seen by his incredible run in Championship Wrestling from Florida and JCP. Number 28, Chyna. Joanie Laurer lived up to her nickname, the Ninth Wonder of the World, proving so dominant in the ring that it made more sense for her to wrestle the WWF's male wrestlers. Chyna defied the odds, proving she could hang with anyone on the WWF roster and make it believable. One of wrestling's greatest what-ifs, Chyna's unceremonious dismissal from the WWF seems to have sent her into a downward spiral, with Chyna dying much too young. Number 29, Buddy Roberts. Long before he teamed up with Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy to form the fabulous Freebirds, Donald Hay worked with Jerry Brown as the Hollywood Blondes, a successful tag team during the 1970s. Naturally, Roberts' biggest claim to fame was the hellacious trio of the Freebirds, with the Birds' epic feud against the Von Erichs being one of the hottest programs of the 80s. Number 30, El Hijo del Perro Aguayo. Second-generation luchador Pedro Aguayo Ramirez followed in his famous father's footsteps, proving a smash success in AAA and CMLL, and even helping rival faction promotion Perros del Mal. Ramirez suffered one of wrestling's rare in-ring deaths when a drop kick from Rey Mysterio snapped his neck, sadly ending him instantly. Number 31, Bruno Sammartino. Wrestling's living legend Bruno Sammartino was the cornerstone of the WWWF, serving as champion for a still record reign of 7.5 years, only dropping the belt when he demanded time off. A second reign further cemented Sammartino as one of the promotion's most beloved babyfaces. Sammartino transitioned to a commentator's role in the WWF, but grew disgusted over the promotion's reliance on chemically enhanced stars and seedy antics backstage, leaving the company for decades and rallying against it. Bruno eventually felt the WWE had cleaned up its act, finally agreeing to enter the company's Hall of Fame in 2013. Number 32, Blackjack Mulligan. Professional wrestling has had its share of big bad cowboys, but few were as colorful or larger than life than Blackjack Mulligan. Mulligan, aka Robert Windham, formed a successful tag team with Blackjack Lanza, winning tag team gold in NWA, WWA, and the WWWF. Mulligan's career skyrocketed when he turned babyface in JCP, and he became one of the promotion's greatest heroes. Blackjack is also known as the father of Barry Windham and the grandfather of current WWE superstars Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt. And lastly, number 33, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Raymond Heenan turned his love of professional wrestling into a lifelong career, beginning with his time as a wrestler, followed by a legendary run as a manager, guiding various heels to the top in the AWA and WWF. Heenan's later years saw him become one of wrestling's funniest color commentators, both in the WWF and WCW. There have been many outstanding managers in wrestling, but Bobby the Brain Heenan's longevity and the variety of talented stars he managed make him the greatest manager of all time. But there they are, guys, the 33 greatest and probably most influential wrestlers who passed away in the last decade. Don't be offended if your favorite wrestler didn't make the list, but we'd like to offer our condolences for all the wrestlers that we've lost in the last 10 years. Rest in peace to all the fallen.